What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're taking a look at episode 1 of Miss Marvel, the latest MCU TV show to drop on Disney+. Let's waste no time, let's get right into it. Overall, episode 1 just fills in the story of who Kamala Khan Miss Marvel is, and for the most part, it does an okay job at establishing who she is. This show didn't win me over by any stretch of the imagination. It didn't make me interested to want to continue watching, but for the purpose of content and the fact that I've already reviewed all the other MCU shows, I'm going to stick with it. Maybe the show has potential to be better than what came before, but I highly doubt it, given it's a Disney Plus show. And they've done a spectacular job at just not doing any of these characters justice. The MCU as a whole, since Phase 4 began, has done a piss poor job at creating interesting characters. But for the context of this show, it was alright. Iman Vellani, who played Kamala Khan Miss Marvel, she's okay in the role. Her performance is clearly based off Tom Holland's performance as the MCU Spider-Man, in terms of this teenage kid who wants to be a superhero and idolizes superheroes, specifically that of Captain Marvel. You know, where Peter Parker is idolized Iron Man, this one idolizes Captain Marvel. So it is what it is. I mean, Iman Vellani was decent enough in the role to come across as likable. No, she did have moments where she can get really annoying in some areas, but wasn't to the point where it was grating. But yeah, as an overall lead, I thought she was okay as Kamala Khan. Her supporting cast, they were decent as well. The actors who play her parents, they're okay as these overprotective Muslim parents who pretty much just don't want to see their daughter grow up. No, they're fine in their roles. The actor who played her best friend Bruno, he was okay. He's like this inventor type of person, and the show is already teasing the two of them are having a budding romance since they're very close together. I mean, it's going to take 1,000 years just to get to that part of their storyline. But yeah, for what it is, at least the two of them have decent enough chemistry, and I buy them as being friends. And Camilla has another friend who's in this show who has like maybe 2 scenes, and if you blink, you're going to miss him. The show, I mean, but this first episode didn't really do anything to establish the overall plot of what the show's supposed to be or what it's going for, or any villains. This first episode is just like an introductory. It's just like introduction to just the main characters, I guess. And not only that, the plot is basically Kamala and Bruno trying to find a way to go to Avengers Con, which is pretty much the Comic-Con for Avengers. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the overall set of Avengers Con does look pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie. It's something that I would definitely go to, and I liked it. I like the whole design and look of it. I thought it was nice. It's nice. It was cool, in a way, and you get to see like a lot of the Easter eggs and things like that. So that was nice to see. The whole thing of how Kamala gets her powers by putting on these mystical bangles that her grandmother gives her, that gives her cosmic powers. You know, that is what it is. Doesn't really bother me. I'm not a fan of Miss Marvel / Kamala Khan to know her story or how she even gets her powers. So to be honest with you, I could care less. So if you want to put on magical bingles, be my guest. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Kamala Khan is not a character who I just can't wait to see get accurately portrayed. She's a D-list character who people think has popularity, but she really doesn't. No Marvel fan that I know knows who Kamala Khan even is. When you compare her to Spider-Man or Daredevil or Punisher, like the ones that people really do like. But yeah, you get that whole thing, and she's, and the whole thing of her saving a bully in the most ridiculous way possible, where the bully clearly should have died. Defying the laws of physics. That's what the MCU does best. But yeah, all that stuff was fine. So I don't really have a lot to say about the first episode. Like, it's just fine. It's just an introductory thing. It just establishes Kamala Khan, establishes what she is, her superhero fandom. It establishes that she has a lot of daydreams about superheroes. I mean, if anything, the first episode does have some decent creative visuals to it by having the illustrations of her daydreams come across like comic books, like a comic book page come to life. So that was pretty interesting, I guess. I mean, but other than that, like, the show doesn't really have anything of all intrigue going for it. Like, and I definitely would not have rated the rating that Rotten Tomatoes gave it. Like, come on, this is like subpar standard. This is like a 5 out of 10 episode. It's not offensively bad, but it's not anything you're going to remember down the line anyway. I mean, the mid-credit scene does set up damage control, and whatever role they're going to play throughout the series, I am interested in. I am sort of slightly interested in seeing, given that Kamala now has these powers because of a mystical wristband. So we'll have to wait and see what role damage control plays. But overall, episode 1 is just a foundation, and hopefully the rest of the season is better. But no, given the MCU and their track record with these D plus shows, wishful thinking. But yeah, those are my thoughts on episode 1. It was okay, nothing spectacular. Let me know your thoughts. Okay, episode 2 of Miss Marvel. Nothing much happens till you get to the last 10 minutes. Overall, I thought episode 2 was considerably weaker than episode 1. Not to say episode 1 was lighting the world on fire, but in comparison, at least episode 1 was mildly entertaining. This episode was downright boring. So let's just zoom right through it. You get them on. So after the events that took place in episode 1, with Kamala saving the girl Zoe, she's become an unofficial internet celebrity and is being dubbed Starlight. Yeah, it's that typical Marvel humor that is just not funny anymore. It's just bad, really, really bad. So yeah, she's now becoming Starlight. We get a couple of scenes of her and her friend Bruno doing a training montage. She meets this kid named Cameron, who's a new kid, who is a new senior. She has a crush on it. Bruno is jealous. Clear as day that Bruno has feelings for Kamala, and they're going to drag this love triangle out, and it's going to be absolutely annoying. We get some development with Kamala's friend Nakia, who is very, very mad that the mosque that they go to is very male dominated in terms of its board of directors. Basically, Nakia is that typical modern day teenager who thinks they know what they're talking about when they really don't have no clue what they're talking about, and they come across as smarter and they try to come across as being smarter than what they really are. That's the Nakia character in a nutshell. And she has this speech about how looking the way she looks and blah, 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 blah. I'm bored. I'm bored. Your gender and racial politics mean absolutely nothing to me. Give me an entertaining show. I don't care about Nakia and her subplot to take down the patriarchy. I don't care. It's cringe, it's stupid, and it's boring. It's really, really boring. The scenes with Kamala and Cameron, it's clear as day. It's a love triangle with Bruno. It's going to be typical. It's going to be forced. And at the end of the day, either Kamala's going to wind up with Bruno, or she's going to wind up with Cameron, or she's going to wind up with nobody. And I am not interested in seeing this thing develop any further because I just don't care. We get some insight into Kamala's backstory, particularly that of her great-grandmother, who had disappeared during the British invasion of India. Yes, we have to throw in the world politics as well in this show, because why not? Let's, even though, yeah, it's based off real life events, but at least the show is trying to tie it to Kamala's backstory. but still, yeah, they made make light of it. But still, come on, do I really need this? I don't need this in my TV. I don't want this in my superhero show. But anyway. Yeah, they tell the story about how Kamala's great-grandmother tried to escape on a train and then she disappeared. Then you go to this festival where Nakia is trying to get people to sign her petition and Kamala is just doing and trying to help out. Then near the end, you get this thing about this little kid falling off a building. Kamala saves him, and this leads to Kamala going on the run because the DOC shows up. Damage control appeared at the end of the last episode, and in this episode they're in it more, with one agent interviewing Zoe because she had a house party and it got all disrupted. But the agent saw the video of Zoe being saved by Kamala, and the agent is trying to get some answers. Well, all the while, another agent invades this little festival and tries to apprehend Kamala. And of course, she gets saved by Kamala. She gets saved by Cameron and his mom, and it's revealed that Cameron's mom is this woman that Kamala has been seeing visions of whenever the bracelet starts to get all funky and stuff. So yeah, that's basically episode 2 of Miss Marvel. Nothing really all that interesting happens till, like I said, like the last 10 to 15 minutes. Everything else is just kind of boring, kind of filler. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Okay, let's move on to episode 3. And, well, I'm just going to say this. Like episode 2, episode 3 doesn't really do anything all that interesting. We get some answers, but overall, I thought episode 3 is on equal footing as episode 2, which means the first couple of minutes you get some stuff, then everything just drags until the last half where we get more stuff. So yeah, episode 3 is really just built around the wedding of Kamala's brother and his fiance, and nothing really much happens after that, with the exception of a really boring bad fight scene with Kamala taking on a bunch of superpowered beings. All right, so basically, episode 3, it's revealed that the mysterious woman that saved Kamala along with Cameron is known as Najima, and she is the mother of Cameron, and she's surrounded by a bunch of people. These people call themselves the Clandestines. Very creative name. In essence, they're just a bunch of jinns, meaning they're like genies or demons or whatever, and they want the bangle so that way they can go back to their dimension that they came from. At first, they're all very nice to Kamala, very blah, 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 blah. You know, they're trying to convince her to give her the bangle, but she doesn't do it right away because she needs to think it over. And then the rest of the episode is just, you know, Kamala and Bruno having their drama, with Bruno revealing he's going to college away from Kamala, and she's all disgruntled about it. And then the rest of the episode just builds up to the wedding of her brother and his fiance. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It just builds up to the wedding of the fiance. I mean, we get a brief scene with the DOC and going to the mosque, and you get this, you know, really forced scene of Kamala's friend Najima, whatever her name is, trying to act all authoritarian to the DOC. It's like, lady, you know that superpowered beings are around. Why are you questioning them for entering your mosque? I think in a case like this, where you have somebody with superpowered beings, you might want to let them help you. I mean, yeah, the DOC do come across as more commanding, mainly because they got to deal with this sort of stuff. I mean, they had to deal with Peter Parker, who was being tried for murder, and they got to deal with the Avengers and things like that. So, you know, I think them being a little too pushy in the mosque, you know, it calls for it in a sense. I mean, I think the scene itself was just written to say that that the mosque was in the right and the DOC was in the wrong. It's kind of like a play on real life, where every single authoritarian figure is wrong, while the simple man's always right, which is not really the case 99% of the time. Yeah, I think the scene sucks. Very forced. We get to the whole wedding thing, you know, it's whatever, you know, nothing really happens. They're just like a wedding. And then the Jinn appear, cause a ruckus. Cameron Cameron comes to the wedding, warns Kamala, hey, my mother's gone crazy, she's gonna come kill your family, she wants the bangle. The really boring fight scene that I mentioned earlier takes place. But then the DOC come and they arrest all the Jinns. Then the show just ends with Kamala getting a phone call from her grandmother, where her grandmother states that, hey, listen, when I first put on the bangle, I saw the train as well. Because early in the episode, Kamala saw a train because of the bangle. And now Kamala has got to go to her grandmother in her home country. So yeah, that's pretty much episode 3. Nothing really all that of note takes place, with the exception of maybe with the exception of one thing, which is the revelation of the Jinn as the series villains. That's pretty much it. The rest of this episode, you can throw it under the bus and skip it. Nothing really of all note happens. Just watch the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. The rest of the episode is just filler fluff, where very little in terms of character and story progression takes place. So yeah, those are my thoughts on episode 3. Okay, let's talk about episode 4 of Miss Marvel. So in this episode, Kamala Khan and her family go to Karachi to visit Kamala's grandmother as she tries to get answers to her bracelet. She ends up getting the answers that she wants, I guess. And yeah, so overall, episode 4 was okay, slightly better than the one before it, which was just a filler episode. But again, episode 4 didn't really do anything to further gain my interest in this show. Just the big highlights. I did enjoy the aesthetic of going to Karachi, Pakistan. It gives the show a different feel, going to another exotic area. I like when superhero fiction leaves, stateside and goes overseas. It gives it a different look, a different feel. So I am not going to lie, I actually like it. I actually like how this show takes place in Pakistan. You get a look, it creates like a different visual aesthetic, so to speak, and you get to see how a different part of the world is run. So I'm okay with that. This show also introduces the vigilante group known as the Red Daggers, who are to protect the world from the Jinn. That's okay. They have a leader who tries to act like a wise mentor, but he gets killed off at the end. I don't know why. He pretty much tells Kamala that the Jinns want the bracelet so that way they can break reality and merge their world and the real world, pretty much, and to take over the world. Yeah. At the end of the day, the Jinn just want to dominate the world, like any other generic supervillain that ever came into existence. Long gone are the complex villains like Thanos, who want to wipe the world, who want to wipe out half the world because he thinks it's the right thing to do in order to save a population. Long gone are the worlds of compartmentalization with Alexander Pierce in The Winter Soldier. Now we're just back to good old-fashioned, let's take over the world. Kind of a letdown. Not only that, this show desperately needed something juicier than let's take over the world for their overall villains to have any pose any threat. Because I'm not going to lie, the clandestines, they suck. They're horrible villains. I think Najima is just a terrible villain. I think the whole group is terrible. They have no threatening presence to them at all. They're just boring to watch. They're like fodder. Like the clandestines are like fodder to Kamala Khan and everyone. But as viewers, we're supposed to believe that these are major threats. They kind of suck. Like they really, really suck. Like the strong points of this episode to me was not the action sequences. It was just Kamala. It was just Kamala's interactions. Like I like seeing her interact with her grandmother. I like seeing her interact with her cousins and her interacting with Pakistan. She's an American-born New Jersey girl who's in a foreign country. The country's part of her heritage, but she's never been. But it's foreign to her because she wasn't born here. So I would have taken, if you're not going to give me interesting action, at least give me some interesting stuff with Kamala interacting with the world around her, especially when she's in this foreign country. They gave me a little bit of that, but then they went right back to the very lame and boring action sequences, which are just really dull and forgettable, and your terrible villains that are written like ass. It's like, yeah, the Red Daggers, a cool concept, I guess. They need more expansion. No, she meets with this one called Kareem, who is like the head of the Red Daggers. As they start to develop a bond after they have a brief fight when Kamala gets mistaken for a clandestine because of the Bengals' powers. Of course, we learn that the Bengals do have powers and again can allow Kamala to do shape-shifting and travel through time and things like that, because at the end she ends up going back in time to when the partition took place in India. So where that goes in the future episode, I don't know. And the whole subplot of Kamala's mom making amends with her mom, it was actually touching scene, I guess. But yeah, I shouldn't be saying that the more human aspects of your superhero show are the best aspects of your superhero show. It should be an even blend. The human aspects and the action aspects should be as one, instead of one being better than the other because you don't know how to balance it out. Long gone are the days where the MCU knew how to balance out human drama and superhero action. Phase 4 has just become a joke. Phase 4 is a joke. It's really exposed the MCU for being a shell of its former self. The MCU has entered self-referential parody mode, and it's really depressing to watch. And Miss Marvel is doing nothing to sway that mindset. Yes, episode 4 from an aesthetic standpoint was better looking than what came before it. From a story aspect, it adds in some little nuggets here and there. We get this really bad fights. We get this really bad escape of the Jinn from DOC. What's the point of capturing these villains just to have them escape a day later and then they find Kamala anyway? What was the point? I'm just in general. I'm getting sick and tired of supervillains being caught by authority just for them to get out of authority, just for them to escape 2 seconds later. Like, what's the point of wasting my time with this crap? And that's what Miss Marvel's become so far. It's just a waste of time. The story that it's trying to tell means absolutely nothing. At the end of the day, the post-credits scene at the end of episode 6 is going to be either Carol Danvers or Monica Rambeau just recruiting Kamala Khan to fight their cause, and that's pretty much it. This show is just setting up the Marvels, and it's doing a not so good job at telling a captivating story for Kamala Khan. But hey, there's 2 more episodes left. Let's see if they do something remotely interesting. But anyway, that's what I feel about episode 4. I like the setting of Pakistan. It does expand the story line a little bit, but the human drama was actually much more interesting than the superhero drama, than the superhero action, and that's kind of a shame. Okay, let's talk about episode 5, the penultimate episode of Miss Marvel, which is basically a flashback. Just like all these Marvel shows, once it gets to episodes 5 and 4, to episodes 4 and 5, to me, that's where these shows come to a screeching halt, and it does nothing but exposition and flashback dumps. I hate when these Marvel shows do that, because you kill the momentum. Because you kill the momentum late on in the game when you should be going full steam ahead to a climax. I'll say this. It was okay. Like, episode 5 was okay. The flashbacks that took place in 1942 to 1949 were focuses on Aisha, Kamal's great-grandmother, and the birth of her grandmother. I mean, it all takes place during the partition in which India broke away from the British government and the nation of Pakistan was being formed. We get all that stuff. We get the stuff of her grandparents and her grandmother of her great grandparents and grandmother trying to go from India to Pakistan, but of course they're stopped because it's revealed that Aisha and Najma, and Najima, the villain of the movie, the villain of the piece, have a connection with one another because of this bangle, and it's revealed that Najima killed Aisha, and of course after about 30 minutes of nothing but a flashback, we finally see Kamala in this time period where she saves her grandmother, reunites her with her grandfather. Then she goes back to the present. In this present, it's in the aftermath of the big massacre that took place. The veil opens and Najima sacrifices herself because Kamala is telling her, "Don't leave behind your son," and blah 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 blah. Najma ends up sacrificing herself, but during that sacrifice, her soul or spirit transfers to her son Cameron. So, okay, and honestly, truthfully, the best part of this episode is the 3 generations coming together, which is Kamala, her grandmother, and her mother having their bonding moments near the end of the episode. That's, to me, my favorite part. And that's it. Like, legitimately, that's my favorite part. It's just seeing these 3 generations interact with one another. This is where the show, to me, actually feels more comfortable. It's when it's, doing the family drama. When it's doing the superhero stuff, whoever created this show, I think her name is Bisha K. Ali, or whatever her name is, yeah, she sucks. She does not understand the superhero medium whatsoever. She has no idea what she's doing. At least someone like Jeremy Slater, who did Moon Knight, he at least has some experience with the superhero genre. Then again, his name's also on the Fan 4 stick, but not to his fault. He didn't rewrite and reshoot that movie, and ended up being a dumpster fire. Actually, Slater's original concept for the Fan 4 stick movie was actually pretty interesting, and it would have been cool. But I digress. Yeah, Bishi K. Ali, who is basically the showrunner of this thing. She has no idea she does not understand the superhero medium. She does not know how to blend superhero action and drama at all. She sucks. She's terrible. Don't stop giving these shows to people who don't like the superhero medium or don't understand the superhero medium, because these shows end up just not doing good. They suck. And that's Miss Marvel right now. This show is just not good. It's kind of freaking boring. It's on the same level as Captain Marvel itself. It's just an uninteresting and just completely boring show. I mean, come on already. The last 2 episodes, Kamala's friends are completely absent. Nakia, supposed to be one of her best friends, she's absent. Bruno makes an appearance at the very end where he takes Cameron for shelter, and they get attacked by the DOC. But then Cameron uses these powers that are obviously given to him by his mother transferring herself into him, and they destroy a DOC drone. So like, what direction is this show going? What's the end game? What is the end game of Miss Marvel? Because episode 5 just confused me more than it interested me. Like, I'll say this, look, at least the flashback scenes were interesting and were pretty interesting. You know, seeing Kamala's grandparents meet up and the birth of her grandmother, that stuff was okay. Like, I'm not gonna lie, even though I criticize these Marvel shows for doing flashbacks in the middle of the season when they should have been done more early on. At least the flashback scenes in this one was actually more interesting, not by much. And yeah, that's it. Nothing really to say about episode 5 of Miss Marvel. It's no different than the rest of the show. It's just meh with decent moments sprinkled in. So yeah, let's see how everything gets all wrapped up. What's up, everyone? Let's talk about the season finale of Miss Marvel, episode 6. Just right off the bat, this is, as usual, these D Plus shows. The season finale is just a hit and a miss. That's all this is a hit and a miss. The entire episode is basically Kamala and friends taking on the DOC in a school after a bunch of contrived reasons to get to this final battle. Even more contrived is that the DOC didn't even make an appearance till the last episode, till episode 5, after being gone for the majority of the show. Because once the clandestines came in, the DOC were forgotten about. And then once the clandestines got taken care of, which you would have thought would have been the overarching villain throughout the entire show, that's what they realized, hey, wait, we set up DOC earlier, we got to wrap that up, kind of, right? Yeah. Bisha K. Ali, who is the showrunner of this thing, her flaws of not knowing what the hell she's doing clearly shows. Why are we giving these hacks these properties to work with? These hacks who have no experience doing these things. Why can't we have veteran showrunners who know how to piece together a television show run these things? Want to know why? Because Disney, that's why. Anyway, let's just run down this thing as fast as we can. So yeah, picks up where the last episode leaves off. We think that Bruno and Cameron are dead, but they're not. Kamala gets sad. She ends up being reunited. Bruno and Cameron first hide in the mosque, but Nakia says no. Yes, Nakia returns to being gone for like 1,000 episodes. She says no, you can't hide here. They go to the school, and then a bunch of contrived reasons gets Kamala's brother, Zoe, and everyone else in that school, in said school. They make a plan to take on the DOC. They eventually come to school, get this Home Alone-esque fight scene, which is kind of goofy and cheesy, boring and dumb. Then one thing leads to another, where they end up outside. Cameron, throughout the entire episode, is having these pains within inside of him because like this force is carrying him from the inside. So Kamala calls Kareem, says, hey, listen, can you help this guy out? He says, yeah, sure. So there's this Kamala creates this force field or something to help Cameron escape, which he does. He ends up going to Kareem. The DOC leader who led this whole thing gets chastised by the higher up, saying, hey, listen, I told you not to attack a school. You did it anyway. Now you're leaving your duties. So, she gets canned. She gets canned. Kamala has a heart-to-heart with her dad where he names her Miss Marvel. I'm not going to lie. The best thing about episode 6 is Kamala interacting with her family, because I still think those are the better scenes, and those are the strongest suits of this entire show, because everything else around this show kind of sucks. But yeah, she has a heart-to-heart with her dad. After earlier in the episode where it's revealed that her dad knows that she is a superhero along with her brother, who was also with her in the school, which was random. So that part was okay. I got some chuckles out of that. But yeah, Kamala, hey Dad, I'm a hero. Dad's like, Kamala, you're perfect, you're a hero. Miss Marvel, what's her name? And then you jump cut 1 week later. Bruno has a car with Nakia, and Bruno tells Kamala, hey, listen, your DNA is different from everybody else. You have a mutant gene. A slight reference to the X-Men, the mutants. Then Kamala brushes it off as, oh, it's just a label. Oh, it's just a label. Don't call me mutant. It's a label. Like, whatever. I don't care. And then mid-credits, Kamala's bangle glows in the dark. She swaps places with Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, the greatest Avenger of all time, who should have killed Thanos at Endgame. Very mad at you, Marvel, for not doing that. just because I wanted to see the ultra backlash that would have gotten. It would have given me such happiness to see Marvel get pitchforked for having Carol Danvers take down Thanos. That's why sick side of me wish he would have did it. Just so that way I can just be like, oh, this is great. I love seeing Marvel and Disney crucified right now. But they were actually smart and did not have her do that. But whatever, I digress. The whole thing just sets up the Marvels movie, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, my overall thoughts on Ms. Marvel the show, a 4 out of 10. This is the weakest out of all the D Plus shows, mainly because the overall story sucked. The main character of Ms. Marvel, she's not bad. You know, at the end of the day, Iman Vellani gave her a likable charisma and a charming, and gave her a charm. She never came across as annoying to me. I mean, there are some instances where, yeah, maybe she came across as annoying, but Vellani knew when to pull back to not make her grating. Like she had a good balance, and she instantly made Kamala Khan more likable than Carol Danvers in terms of MCU continuity. I don't know how Kamala Khan is in the comics. I don't read Ms. Marvel comics. So yeah, Iman Vellani showed that she has more charisma than Brie Larson and more likable than Brie Larson. In terms of everything else, though, the overall story of the show was really just boring. The action sequences and lack thereof, not that great. Kind of bland and very forgettable. The other side characters, they don't really leave much of an impression on me. The only one that I kind of liked was Bruno, mainly because the show was teasing a romance between her and Kamala, but of course, at the end of the show, they didn't even pull the trigger on that. So yeah, like Ms. Marvel, when compared to other shows, it's a 4 to 10. Didn't really care for it. It's very forgettable. At least Moon Knight attempted to push some barriers with violence, even though that show fell off a cliff. Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Falcon had good ideas, but it was poor execution. Same thing with Loki. Hawkeye was just, it had a sense of fun, but then it fell off a cliff. And WandaVision started off weird, then once you got to the middle, was getting interesting, then once you get to the end, it falls apart. Ms. Marvel, to me, it just started off boring and it ends boring, which is why you get a 4 out of 10. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts on Ms. Marvel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.